Hey guys, thank you for watching. This is Callum, Joe, and Ray, and we're coming at you with our future ban list kind of discussion. What decks will be hit? Do we think Juhu will be hit? And what are some of the moves we want to see happen? Thank you very much for listening. Segueing in here, just to let you all know, we're currently rebranding. We've had some creative differences with members, so we've all split up. So now we will be going by a Jahama party. Thank you very much for watching. With Konami saying the ban list is miles away, realistically, will Ryziel, Mitsu, Fiendsmith, Malice, Memento, Murmel, all these kind of decks, will they be hit or will they be left alone? What are your guys' takes?
I'll chime in. I think Konami seems quite tactical in their ban list in terms of they hit cards that cheap cards initially get hit first. So I think Mitsurugi could see some form of either consistency hit, or the deck could just be like gunned down if they've had enough of people enjoying a relatively cheap TCG archetype again. It's something we saw with Tenpai being a low rarity distribution deck. They just started gutting that deck pretty quickly. I personally could see something like Mitsurugi Prayers being limited. That obviously kind of kills the pure Mitsurugi deck from existing. But it does make the sub engine still playable, and it can either then be splashed for a rank 8 or one rank 4. But it doesn't give you the infinite bodies that it currently does now with follow up. I think that's the issue a lot of people have, is once you commit all these bodies, um, you still get the follow up with the Raigeki. Whereas if it was just to be like one rank 4 in the Raigeki, it's a bit more manageable as an engine. I think we'll also try to phase out the crossover breakers decks. They did drop sort of December last year. In Konami's eyes, that's probably enough play time for them, at least at the tier 1 level. So again, some limitations might come in. I don't think it'll be anything major to completely take them out of the format, but I think you could see things like Ryziel Duo Drive being limited, so you no longer can send it with X Ryziel to get protection effect, search across. Or if you do that, you have to then play Star Ryziel to get the cross and protect yourself from Nib early. Even though it's not a big card in the format, I think that's something they'd consider, as it makes Ryziel quite frustrating to play against right now, because you can't hand trap them too much. I also think then Barrier Statue of the Torrent is. I'm wishful that it's going to go, because that's a pretty miserable card to play. It's very hard to interact with. Obviously, it's targeted protection in the right Mermail board setups, and it's happened a fair few times. I've had it just normal summoned against me once, and I just lost the game on the spot. So I think they'll try to get rid of a few of those cards from the current meta game.
Yeah, so I kind of agree with this. I feel like, as you said, like from a business perspective, this is what I've written down. I've said, I think Mitsu surely will. I can't remember what the track record of TCG exclusives staying around are, but I feel like its time will be coming to an end. Like, as in, it will get that first check coming towards the end, like that ban list. I feel like Malice and Ryziel, they've had their check. They'll probably get removed because they want to push these new decks. I don't see them wanting to keep that around. I could see them either dying or just doing it in a way that completely just pushes them to the side. They've sold the product on them now. They would be looking to sell new products. So from a business perspective, it just makes sense for them to be gone. It would also make sense to me to maybe see Momo get that treatment a wee bit. I feel like getting rid of the Barrow statue will make the deck a bit more fair in certain ways. And it make it more enjoyable to play against, and it will also probably make it a lot weaker to a lot of stuff. I also think with like Memento, it makes sense that they might want to push players off the deck. I think it's a cool deck, but it wouldn't surprise me if they maybe give it a little light tap to try and push people away from it, maybe take away the weakness, maybe make it a little bit weaker, or even tap Fiendsmith just to make sure that it's harder for that to go into. Those are kind of like my takes from a business perspective. It would make sense for those kind of things to be lightly tapped to some degree.
Yeah, I'm just going to give you my thoughts on what I think they should probably do in terms of the ban list and stuff. So one of the important things to look at is that the tins will have dropped by the time the ban list comes out, probably. So being aware of the fact that they've maybe just reprinted these cards and just done the tins, that doesn't mean they haven't hit cards after immediately reprinting them after. But thinking about what cards are going to fall into the tin reprints is important in terms of hits. I definitely think Prayers is maybe on the chopping block. They could do something like put it to 1, put it to 2. Maybe they put Prayers to 2 and then also ban King of the Feral Imps. So the idea is that Mitsurugi Pures is hit a little bit in terms of consistency, but they cut off the pure Ryziel engine and slice that off entirely. I also think in terms of the Fiendsmith stuff that you were talking about there, Callum, I think of the Moon Bridge probably has to go at this point. Getting rid of Moon of the Closed Heaven is very important in terms of if you're going to play Fiendsmith, you just can't bridge it through everything. I also think getting rid of Moon also makes it so that people had talked about in the past where it's like, oh, but Fiendsmith can exist, it's fine. But the problem is Caesar. The thing is, that's now a YCS like prize card promo in that promo pack. So they're probably never hitting that. Also, if you've been paying attention, you'll see that one of the next core sets coming out actually gives DDD support, so they're not hitting Caesar. And if they're not going to hit Caesar, the thing you probably want to hit, if you're not going to hit the end board piece, is hit the bridge. So I think they probably would do something like a Ban of Moon. I could also see a whole lot of other things happen. Like I would personally like to see Protoss gone. They could also ban Banshee. Loads of different floodgates that definitely, like, I think if lots of players would sort of just be like, oh cool, I'd like this hit, this, you can just go down the list where it's like Mistaken Arrest, gone, Different Dimension Ground, get rid of that, D Barrier, get rid of that, the Harpy Trap, that can go too. I think there's some interesting things that can come back, but I probably also want Paradise Smashers gone. I think depending on how well Malice does, they could look at giving them a bit of a hit too. I think Splash Mage has been touted as a hit for Malice, because the idea being that it's like you hit Splash Mage over Haggard Lizardos, because Haggard forces you to use a Malice name, so it's a bit of a worse extender in terms of Splash Mage. I know it doesn't lock you, but it is slightly worse than that way. So we could also ban Ouroboros. Hand loops are probably not fun. We could probably get rid of those too. And then some cards that I'd like to see actually come back. There's some interesting cards that could come back. I actually think Glow Up Bulb, especially with the new Akiza plant support, it might not sync up for this ban list. Either this one or next, I could see Glow Up Bulb coming back. There's other cards that I personally would like to see back. I'd like to see Sekka's Light back. I think especially if you hit the Mermeal deck in like appropriate ways, you could have a Mermeal deck that would maybe play Sekka's Light that could come out. So if you ban, let's say, ban Barrier Statue of the Torrent, you could like limit Deep Sea Minstrel, and then bring Sekka's Light. So the idea is that you're pushing the Mermeal deck into this sort of, it can set up a reasonable end board, and it also is maybe better going second, which is the advantage of Mermeal then, and you give it tools rather than just always taking tools away from rogue decks. I think that'd be interesting. And a card that I would actually like to see come back is Return from the Different Dimension. The trap card that brings everything back from Banish. I think that would be interesting in terms of, I don't know that it would actually even see play, right? Like, I actually think bringing back Return from the Different Dimension would be an interesting one in terms of it's a slow trap card. You have to pay half your life points, set it for a turn, let it live, and you also have to set it up as well. So it would just be interesting to see how that would actually work, and would like Malice play it?
So funny enough, leading on to something you said a little bit earlier into that, you said about how like the Caesar is that prize card. Well, it's interesting though because Konami does have a little bit of a track history of printing out like an ultimate and then either hitting it before that, like in the OTS pack, sorry, for clarity, or hitting the deck so it becomes not relevant before that even drops, or even just slightly after. I'm pretty sure it was like, I can't remember what the most recent one is, but Blue Eyes feels a lot less relevant, and they just got their ulti. And then I'm pretty sure there was something around Sprite format as well. Something got ulti and then just kind of wasn't as impactful anymore. I don't know whether it was ulti Sprite Blue or something like that, but I just remember they've done a track history of that before, I think.
Snake Eyes Ash, I'm pretty sure, got its ulti print right before it got hit on a ban list, like maybe a month or so before. So they're pretty quick to do it. I will also just, the only intention is Sekka's Light seems like such an interesting card to bring off, but I don't know if there's a well-placed deck for it anymore, because it seems like Konami's design space has sort of changed on Monster Mash piles aren't as good, because Sekka's Light obviously isn't just like a spell restriction, it's also a trap restriction. You can't use a card. A lot of those decks that don't want to play standard hand trap lineups have been getting support through the Dominus cards, and Mermeal is actually a good proponent of this, because obviously Impulse, insane card for the deck. But in the new Different Dimension set in the OCG, where this DDD support's coming out, they're getting Dominus Spiral, which is another Dominus card that Mermeal can play. that also adds to their sort of defensive lineup as cards, which I think is just something which take into effect of maybe Konami's not as fond of the big monster mash piles that we used to see. I don't think they really love the idea of cards like Monsters Gate and Reasoning are kind of the ones that come to my head of that were played in those kind of lists.
Yeah, and we've kind of touched on banner stuff already, but yeah, what are like a couple of generalized ideas for hits you guys think will happen? Like, one thing I've got written here is like, do we think Juhu will get hit? Like, does the Justice Hunter decks get hit by then? Because Konami has slaughtered decks before on early release. Like, Super Heavy Samurai and Pearly lasted a couple of weeks, and then they were just gone. Yes, very vast. Well, Pearly was around still, but Super Heavy Samurai was just murdered. But the ceiling on that deck was insane. But Pearly would be an example here. Like, there could be a chance it does get slapped a little bit like Pearly. I can't see it happening, but I do wonder. It is a relatively affordable set. But yeah, so what are your guys' thoughts?
Pearly was weird because Pearly it wasn't incredible on release, was it? It waited until Syac until it got its second wave of support with the small level 1 Pearly Black Cat, to where it really started getting tournament presence, and then it was quickly hit, I think, from there with some limits or semi-limits. Obviously, Super Heavy Samurai became a quick tier 0 format. That deck, it was before my time playing the TCG, but I heard it was notoriously bad. It was actually, I think, when I first went to locals, it was still legal. And I played against it, and someone just said they made more negates and had cards in hand, so I had to scoop. It was a shock that I still played after that, to be honest. I think I think they could hit some Justice Hunter cards that are maybe a bit strong, or the cards that support these decks that aren't directly printed in Justice Hunters. So similar to your point, they obviously can hit things quite quickly, especially if they're low rarity. What I could maybe see there is for the K9 package, K9 Jokel. If you're not aware, it seems like one of the most splashable cards in the deck. It's not the generic hand trap lineup of Izuna, but compared to its counterpart, K9 Lantern, the card actually doesn't restrict you on either using the effect of the card to summon, or it does not have to summon a K9 card. So Vanquish Soul players will probably be quite familiar with using it to summon either a Holisu or a Vanquish Soul Jiaolong, where the effects are still live, and you can pretty much do whatever you want with those cards. That's very strong because it's pretty much a one card. It's a rank 5 as long as you have 2 level 5s in your hand, but it doesn't stop any of the effects, which feels quite strong. Yummy obviously are playing Obedience Gold as one of the best starters in the deck. That might be something they might look to sort of hit in some way. I believe most Yummy lists right now sit around Snake Eyes. Peak Snake Eyes consistency levels of the deck is 90% or more consistent. So maybe some limitations might be in place for Obedience Gold, as that's the primary starter I think they're playing that wouldn't impact another engine. Hornet Drones is another card most lists are playing, but you wouldn't want to hit any of that given Sky Striker just got support in Duat. I also think Vanquish Soul might get some form of small hit depending on how its representation at the sort of first YCSs we see is Vancouver and Anaheim maybe. If we start seeing Vanquish Soul is represented onto teetering on tier 0 format, I think a consistency hit either to Raisin or Stake Your Soul would probably make sense for one of those decks.
Yeah, there's been some speculation online. There's been a couple interesting ones. There's been from like a lot of takes that I've seen. There's been obviously the ask for King of Fire Imp's gone, Duo Drive gone, Banshee, the Barrier Statue. There is also some very interesting ones that would be similar to what we have in the OCG, like the likes of some of the Zodiac cards coming back. Maybe Heavy Storm is one that kind of is expected, I feel like, and same with Summer Sorceress, being the errated version, which I'm pretty sure has just been reprinted for us or has been confirmed to be a reprint for us. But there's a lot of cards like this, and then obviously in my heart, I love Naturia. Naturia is the greatest deck in the world. There's been speculation about that coming back for ages. And you can also bring cards like Unchained Soul of Shavara back. The Pearly cards aren't really doing too much wrong. And we've seen a general trend of the Draco Slayers coming back as well. So there's a lot of cards that people have been speculating like that. It would be interesting to see if they actually bring these cards back, or if we have like another straight off situation where it just stuff stays in purgatory for such a long time. But yeah, there's been a lot of speculation around. And leading on from that, we do have some Draco Slayer support coming out. It may not be fantastic, right? But it's still coming back, which could allude to like other not like other ban-listed kind of Dragon Slayer stuff coming back. Might not be great, but at the same time, the chances of it coming back are relatively high. So it'll be interesting to see how Konami plays this. So that's our thoughts on what we think could happen. Yeah, what's your takes? What are your takes on the relevant decks? What do you think will happen with the ban list? Do you reckon Joe's an idiot for suggesting that trap come off the ban list? Anything you disagree with us? What are your takes? Put them down in the comments below. Like, subscribe. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much, guys.